Hello, I am Nemanja, and I would like to show you two samples of my work so that you can know what you can expect in the case that you decide to work with me. So this first model is a driver-based model for a SaaS company, as stated in here, and this one is built from first principles and operational drivers. Now, the other model that we will take a look at a little later is a trend-based model built from historical ratios and growth rates. So most businesses, in my experience, need either one or the another. Sometimes a combination of the two is needed, which is also possible. This model, being driver-based, is run from this input sheet. Every single cell that you see in here that is in light blue color with blue font represents an individual assumption that then flows through the entire model all the way to the three statement proformas and the output dashboard. So in this particular case, we have, for example, three different customer categories: the SMB, mid-market, and enterprise. Each of them can have a different number of users in the company. They can opt for one of the three different subscription packages. There are then upgrades, downgrades, expansion revenue included, and contraction, obviously. Then for the hiring of the staff, I also have detailed assumptions driving it so that the staff is not hired manually, but rather in accordance with the actual needs of the business. This is the point where I really want to emphasize that this level of detail is not mandatory for a financial model. I'm just showing the upper level of the details to be included in the case that you're interested. However, each and every section here can be simplified. Every proper financial model needs to have a three-statement model, which is the pro forma of the income statement, cash flow, and the balance sheet. So I usually place them in one sheet of Excel because it's much easier to analyze and to trace everything that is going on in there. Right now, I'm showing you the most detailed view of this entire sheet. However, I can use the grouping feature in here and I can raise the level of aggregation to a higher level if I want to quickly see any of the more, let's say, aggregated information. Among the output sheets of the model, I would like to show you the executive summary, which, for example, contains the MRR bridge with detailed information by the customer class about new MRR expansion, contraction, and churn, leading to the end of the period MRR. There is a sheet KPI overview dedicated in particular to the key KPIs of a SaaS model. And of course, there is the dashboard. Now, we are not going to go through everything, obviously, in this dashboard. I'm just going to show you a few things. So here at the top, we set the funding rounds and the bank loans, key information for that. There is also a financing and capitalization sheet that we are going to get to very soon, which takes this information as set in the dashboard. And this is placed here simply in order to make the usage easier for the final user testing the various scenarios. For example, in this chart, we see the cash balance and the funding rounds, whether those are capital funding rounds or the bank loans. And if I, for example, remove this seed round and remove these $5 million, we can see immediately what happens. We have a cash gap in the month 14 of the model, negative cash appears, and the total funding gap is around $4.4 million. If I return the funding in there, this disappears, reverts to the original position. In this section of the dashboard, I offer the user to take a peek at any year at a glance. So there's this MRR bridge, definitely a key piece of information for a SaaS company, and multiple gauges with KPIs such as net and gross revenue retention, margins, SaaS magic number, etc. So if I change, for example, the year in here, you can see how the numbers are changing in each of the charts, including the color coding. So at the rest of the dashboard, we have some additional key finance information and a few more charts. Now let's move to the financing and capitalization sheet. As indicated by the green font in here, the amounts raised and the dates of the funding rounds and also the terms of the bank loans are actually set elsewhere, set in the dashboard. Here we just set the pre-money valuation of the funding rounds, and we can also set the employee pool, when is it created and with how many shares. So these numbers work together in order to produce this cap table, so that you can see immediately how the ownership structure changes and also the number of the outstanding shares. Of course, all of this is aggregated into the end of year summaries as seen in this section. Before we move away from this financial model to the next one I mentioned, I just want to briefly show you a small portion of the cohort engine sheet, which is truly the biggest sheet in this financial model, and it contains over 200 of these cohort sections that you see here as triangles. I have zoomed out heavily in here, but each of these sections is 60 rows times 60 columns, calculating everything that is needed to be properly calculated in a model that is as detailed and complex as this one. So everything that happens with customer classes and their subclasses, their different payment schedules, their subscription packages, upgrades, downgrades, changes in the numbers of users, etc. All of that is in this sheet, which simply cannot be observed at once, not even at the highest level of it being zoomed out, because it is so complex. Now, one good thing definitely in here is that the user of the model does not need to visit such a complex sheet at all. It does its business in the background, and it is the output sheets which are of key interest to the user. Okay, so now we are switching to this second model that I want to show you, and this is a completely different animal, if we can say so. So we are talking about a small coffee shop chain which has 4 locations plus 2 administrative and procurement locations. And what you're looking at right now is a sheet, the P&L sheet with the raw accounting information just for 1 year, in this case 2024, which is when the model was built. Now, each of these raw accounting data sheets, and I have a separate one for each of the 3 years of the company history, has over 5,000 rows of raw data. So this reveals a general problem that I have seen too many times with young companies, and that is that their accounting systems offer them sufficient information to properly pay their taxes, but not much else. So what this model does is we have created here a sophisticated system that simplifies that accounting information, aggregates it and simplifies it into a certain, let's call it, chart of accounts of our own for the purpose of the model. And finally, it produces the P&L actuals sheet, which of course we can observe at the various level of detail depending on how much information is desired. From this, we can calculate the actuals ratios. Now, in this particular case, we have opted for a very simple version where we focus on the trailing 12-month ratios. These are mostly cost ratios to the relevant revenue, and this enables us to create the projections. So in the projections sheet, I have here a seamless organization. The model, in lack of a better word, knows what is the last historical month and where do projections start. So in this case, this was made, as can be seen, in early 2024. So these first rows that you see here at the top, Those are the projected revenue growth rates on the annual level. These differ whether the whether the location is treated as developing or already mature. And of course, each of these can be manipulated manually. And then from there, we get to the projections first on the combined level for the entire company, but we can observe this also at the level of various locations. So this is something that was much easier for the client to then analyze on their own. And I would say that, of course, the annual overview combining the historical data with projections from such raw data that we began with was very useful for the client. Okay, so this is everything that I have to show to you today, or that I selected to show to you today in these two video overviews. I stand at your disposal, ready to answer all of the questions you may have about my services, how I work, what I can offer. And so please feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.